everyone, welcome back to Healthy Habits with the Haven. My name is Kiran, I'm a counselor, and today we are going to talk about vicarious trauma and relationship. So I'm going to introduce my team.
Good morning, my name is Lacey. I am a sexual assault advocate here at Tri-Valley Haven, as well as a prevention educator.
Hi everyone, I'm Evelyn and I'm a preventionist here at Tri-Valley Haven.
Hi, I'm Jaylyn. I'm a preventionist at Tri-Valley Haven. Let's get started.
Hi Lacey, thank you for coming with us in this podcast. And I know you have a lot of experience working with the children's family and youth, and you have some personal experience as well. So I'm just wondering, what's your thought and feelings about vicarious trauma and secondary trauma?
Well, when we talk about vicarious trauma and secondary trauma, it's important to know the difference between the two of them. So when we look at vicarious trauma, you need to understand that it's trauma work-related or school-related, and it's the experience or the trauma exposure through listening to students, listening to clients. Essentially, it's trauma that may not be directly involved with you, but you're experiencing it through understanding or listening to somebody else talking about it. And when we talk about vicarious trauma, we like to talk about how it affects individuals. And this can become, individuals can become more fearful, more cynical, or they can become more appreciative. You know, it's kind of like a balance between everything, as well as individual responses to the vicarious trauma. It can be a negative response, it could be a neutral response, or it could even be a positive response. You know, you can learn from that lesson and take it on with you, or it can affect you in a negative manner where you maybe withdraw and understand and hold it in. Mm-hmm. Secondary trauma is the stress or the emotional duress that results when an individual hears the trauma but is not experiencing it firsthand. This can affect individuals by showing behavioral problems, again, like the withdrawal, like we had talked about, or maybe even acting out because it's something they've witnessed or they've heard about and, you know, they're acting out the experience. Or it can also take an emotional toll, which can lead into compromising either your professional aspect or, you know, any aspect in your personal life. And then when we revert to the relationship, having the vicarious and secondary trauma in the relationship, a perfect example is I have an individual, or I know an individual who is in a very toxic relationship, and when they have their spats or arguments, she comes to me and, you know, she lets me know A, B, and C of what's going on, the things he says to her, the things he's done to her, and in turn, her telling me those things have actually allowed me to build a barrier and a opinion about that individual. So I kind of withhold that against him because of what she's telling me she's experiencing. So that's kind of like an example of like the secondary trauma aspect. It can also affect individuals by maybe becoming desensitized. So now it's, you know, you don't pay attention to it, or it could be normalized. So now when you experience it, it's just like another day. It's something normal, and you totally just, whatever, you know. You're just normalized to it. And other times individuals can either feel helpless. Sometimes they can feel sad, anxious, like I mentioned, the behavioral problems of the social isolation, or even have some type of an emotional disconnect. As I was talking about vicarious trauma and secondary trauma in relationships, what do you think it would look like for someone who's experienced this vicarious or secondary trauma in a home environment?
In a toxic home environment, someone might be facing different forms of abuse. So it can look like mental abuse, verbal, physical, or even sexual abuse. This can heavily influence and have a major impact affecting life overall. For that person, this can affect school and work performance. It can also have a shift in their focus, a change in their overall mood, affect their sleep patterns, and even cause more stress. There can also be effect in their behaviors. So there might be some behavioral problems such as violence. They may depend on some use of substances. There may be some complications in expressing self-care and self-love. There's also struggling with expression and maybe even seeking help. There's also mental and emotional health issues that can bring up depression, anxiety, maybe there's some trauma or also PTSD, etc. There's also the cause of future relationship issues. So maybe this person is used to seeing this type of behavior in their toxic home environment and they want to repeat that. They assume it's normal for these kind of behaviors in a relationship. So this is what reinforces that cycle of violence. If you're in a toxic relationship, try to remove yourself or distance yourself from that situation. But if you're unable to do so, to seek out for help. We provide mental health services and counseling here at the Tri-Valley Haven. So we're here to help out in your situation. So all this toxic environment talk and unhealthy relationships, what do you suggest for someone to do if they find themselves having a friend that's in an unhealthy relationship?
So oftentimes we talk about like how to help another person, but things that you can do to support yourself if someone is going through an abusive relationship. First, like ask for help. It can be really difficult sometimes dealing with the relationship and someone else, like all the trauma that's coming from this other person. So maybe you need to step back and like ask an adult for help, a counselor, a coach, someone else outside of the situation that might have a better opinion or might be more experienced with this that can give you that extra help. Also put some boundaries in place for if things are getting a little too intense. I had a situation before where a friend of mine she was going through an abusive relationship and she wanted to, talk to me and vent about it, but it was all the time. So she would call me crying, I wouldn't get a hello, how are you, or anything. She was already in the midst of it, and I'd have to tell her like, hey, I understand you're having a lot of trouble with this right now. I'm going to give you 15 minutes to talk about it, and then we have to move on because this is like the 7th time that we've talked about it this week, and I can't, I don't have the like mental space for it right now. That can also look like, hey, I'm struggling with my own mental health, and I don't feel like I can be your primary support system right now. Just like telling them like, I can be here for you, but I also need some space for myself. Another thing you can do is have some space for yourself outside of the friendship. We can be really invested in, like helping our friend get better, and I have to be with them, I have to be there for them 24/7. Sometimes you can neglect the other parts of your life, and that can also bring down your mental health. So make sure you're still spending time with your other friends, your family members, still practicing your hobbies, self-care, and things like that to make sure that you're okay and that you're not putting 100% of your energy into this relationship, because that can be really draining sometimes. And lastly, allow them to make their own decisions. I know sometimes when we're really invested, we can think, well, I know, like what's good for my friend, I know what they need. And so you can be trying to, like force them, hey, you should do what I think, or you should go about this way. And then you're not giving them the space to like make the decisions for themselves. Also bringing on extra stress for yourself because you're not the person in the relationship. So, give them space like, hey, what do you want to do? What do you need? How can I support you? And allow them to make the decisions for themselves because they are your friend, but also this isn't your relationship and you have to give them that autonomy. So I just talked about how you can support yourself if someone else is going through an abusive relationship, but a type of trauma that we haven't heard a lot about that's going on right now is immigration and the risk of deportation. So if you or another family member is going through this, like how might that be affecting you?
Thank you, Jaylyn. This is a great question. And first, before I start talking about, I just wanted to understand a statistic. Currently, as for the 2016 research, there's 5.5 million men, 4.5 million women, and 675,000 children are undocumented here. So we have a big population who needs help and support, and they are going through probably so many challenges. So Lacey, Evelyn, and you shared about the toxic relationship, secondary vicarious trauma and secondary trauma, and adversity of trauma of relationship and other situations. These people are actually facing all these things. Especially just imagine that if you are in the fear always all the time. These kids are all the time in the fear of losing parents, fear of losing parents through if they get deported. So how does it feel like to you? If I'm a child, if I'm constantly inside feeling anxious, my growth and development going to affect in many ways. First of all, I'm going to be a very, very scared child inside. Even my parents doesn't let me go outside. and play with other children because they have fear they might get someone get to know that they're undocumented, so might be they get deported, and this fear goes into the like children's, and this is kind of like it creates like a severe attachment issue, like that's called insecure attachments. So even this child has a lot of potential. They started getting anxious inside, and over a time that's turned into like lots of mental health problems, like short term you can say sleeping problem, and nightmares, flashback, and eating problems. And over a time in the long term it goes into like PTSD and behavioral symptoms, like sometimes like even the ADHD, it started with the fear. And though there's a lot of research going on, but there's a like simple things makes a big difference in their life. So they probably they want some kind of help in this. Parents want to help them their children, but what happened? Again, the fear of deportation. They stop asking for the help. So even there is a lot of resources, they are losing their access to those resources, and it's really hard. And I heard, means I work with many of the teens as well. I had seen they have a lot of potential, and some of them that really wanted to grow and go to many good colleges, and they had potential. But what happened? This fear of being deported, not about them, about their parents. It's stopping them to go there, and they are always like, even like there's a chance that they get abused, and then also like exploitations as well, because again they are undocumented. So when people are there, they can misuse this information. They will not get paid well. They need to raise their family, so they will do this work, and they get exploited through like financial and even like physical, sexual, and many other way. And children do this as well to like children and teens because they need to support their family. And some of the cases I heard that like there's a, as you know, like in schools there are sexual assault cases going on, and it's increasing most of the high schools. What happened, like if this child get molested in the school, they do not have this courage to talk about that. Not about that they don't want to share it, because they have a fear that if they go to police, if they get some help or go to hospital to seek help, maybe their information get out and they will get deported. So this is really big issue, and we all are working towards that. In Tribal Haven, we are working to help these people, but still we need to do more. So like you guys are as advocate working in the schools, and maybe you can bring a lot of awareness about that, and you are doing this. So thank you for doing this and moving forward, helping these people. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today with Healthy Habits with a Haven, and I would like to invite you guys to follow us on any of our social media here for the podcast. We also have a TikTok, we also have a Facebook and an Instagram. And then if you have any questions, always feel free and know that we're open, and we have a 24-hour 7-day-a-week crisis line, and reach out at any point in time. Thank you.